Greetings and welcome to the ROI Clear podcast. My name is Ray Hightower, and today we are fortunate to have as our guest Mr. Jim Blakemore. He's based in Texas. I have a lot of admiration and respect for this man. We've had a lot of conversations about business and capitalism. You're going to enjoy hearing from Jim Blakemore. Jim is a flag-waving, banner-carrying entrepreneurial capitalist, and he's going to tell us more about that and what it means. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Jim Blakemore. Welcome, Jim.
Well, thank you, Ray. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here on your podcast.
We're glad to have you here. And to kick things off, we're going to ask you to tell us a little bit about you. And the way we frame this, you're on an elevator, and you know all about the elevator pitches. For those who are new to the ROI Clear podcast, Jim Blakemore is on an elevator with someone he wants to influence. So, Jim, what would you say to that person in the course of an elevator ride?
Well, first thing I'd want to know is a little bit more about them. So I'd kind of ask them a quick question about their background. But, you know, I am a serial entrepreneur. I've been in entrepreneurialism. I'm a capitalist. I believe in all of that. And I've come to use my experience to help other people become either entrepreneurs, start their own business, or make good investments. I think the first thing I would say to them is I'd want to know what their interest was in life, because I love to talk to people about what they're interested in. It's been, like I told you when we were getting prepped, I've never found a microphone I don't like. So I will be glad. Most people have a problem. Once I get started, they have a problem shutting me up. So, but right now, Ray, you asked me what I'm doing. I started out my entrepreneurial career years ago with rental houses. I had a number of single-family rental houses, and I finally sold them when they got worth too much money not to sell. I've transitioned from that into real estate development. I bought some land in a nearby town and started a development company. We had a shovel-ready project that me and my team put together, and we had everything ready to go except for a couple of minor approvals from the town. And we never could get those. The town just, the city manager and the powers that be in the town kept stalling, running around. And I finally found out at the end of towards the end, that they were never going to let me do my project. I could do anything. There was nothing in the world that I could do to allow me to do that project. So I got a very expensive education in building a real estate development company and putting projects together. And I know a lot more about it now than I used to, and am waiting for the right time to put that back into play. Subsequent to that, I got into the multifamily business. Most people get in the multifamily business by getting into a syndication. Somebody approaches them to invest as a limited partner in their deal, and they put together a number of limited partners, and as GP, then they put the deal together. Well, I didn't do that. I just bought the complex. I went and bought the buildings myself. And found out I found out that it's a lot harder to own and run a multifamily complex than one thinks. Even when you have professional management involved, there's a lot of factors that you don't think about when you buy the building. I looked at it from the frame of mind of being a real estate investor. I'd bought properties before, allowed them to appreciate, allowed them to develop whatever, and then sold them. Didn't, the only ones that had really had hands-on were when I had those single family properties, and they pretty much ran themselves. Well, I found out that multifamily properties don't run themselves. There's a whole lot of problems. I was the quintessential slumlord. I had
Oh.
properties in the near northwest portion of Milwaukee. If
Mm-hmm.
you look up slumlord in the dictionary, there's my picture.
Hmm. Okay.
And so I wound up with understanding that had to deal with some of the seedier sides of society up there. Had some great tenants, had some lovely people that rented from me, and then I
Mm-hmm.
had some of the exact opposite.
Wow.
But the benefit of the whole thing was I came out of that thing well because the economy was good to me. I sold the units at a profit,
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot. I tell you all these three stories to just say and to wrap it up and say that I have I've lived the mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I have one of these guys who I kind of jump off the end. I'm not really a toe dipper, and
Toe dipping. Okay.
um, so I've done that my entire career in business and real estate, oil and gas, ranching, all the different things, broadcast properties, all the different things I've done. I've jumped into and either and had to sink or swim. Sometimes I sank, sometimes I swam.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but the nice thing about it is, in my position now as a fund builder, I can help guide people and help them to make. I can give them the benefit of my experience and my mistakes, and help them make better decisions.
Wow.
That was a
So
long elevator ride, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah, that was what an elevator ride. What an elevator ride. There's a lot. You have such a rich and eclectic collection of experiences. So we're going to try to unpack some of that. We're not going to get to all of it in the short time that we're here together, but let's dig at some of it. You started off as a single family home investor, did well there, and then you looked around and you saw while some people bought apartment complexes by going into a syndication, you decided to buy the entire apartment community yourself there. You had done well with the single family homes in a position to do that. You called yourself a slumlord, but what's interesting there, I mean, in jest you said that, but here's what I extract from that. You saw the good in many of your tenants. You had some of the best tenants you could ever have there, and then some who were not as positive for you. But it sounds like you were trying to build a community where the better tenants wanted to stay. I'd say that is that a fair statement?
I think that yes, that is a very fair statement, and I think the the important factor that you just hit upon was that I was trying to provide as good a place to live for the good tenants, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I had some of the other kind also, but I worked really, really hard. I had a management company that worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that if you got a property manager for single family homes, it's one thing. Having a property managed for multifamily is a completely different world.
Oh, yes.
And but I have been now, my entire life, I've been committed to a win-win or no deal. I mean, I have to
Mhm.
win, and
Yes.
but the other people on the other side of the table have to win also. Uh,
Right.
I there's just no other way to do business in my book, and
Mhm.
so we spent a lot of money on my buildings, on my complexes, improving them, adding security, uh, updating HVACs, environmental stuff, uh, updating the condition of the units themselves. All of that, I spent quite a bit of money. I didn't have to spend the money. I could have just let them be seedy,
Yeah.
because the value in the when I sold the units, it was not so much and I don't know why, because normally apartment complexes are sold on cap rate.
Hmm.
I think these sold more on the real estate value, and the I think cap rate was in there a little bit,
Hmm.
but I think the people who bought it were kind of visionary like me, and they looked at them and says, you know, I understand you want out. I see where you're going. We're going to try to we're going to keep carrying your vision for these units forward and try to keep them and try to keep improving them, and and make them better places to live for better people.
Right, right. How large was the community? How many units?
I had four. I had at one time 5 buildings with a total of it would have been 45 units.
Yeah, that's quite a portfolio. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you went from single family homes to multifamily, did that. And you've also done other multifamily and oil and gas. Can you take us through the path there? How would you connect the dots?
Well, I grew up in an oil and gas and ranching family. My great granddad um, actually came to Texas in the late 1800s,
Mm,
um, went to work in a sawmill, eventually bought the sawmill from the sawmill owner, turned that into the largest lumber company in Texas.
mm,
And along the way, he got into the oil and gas business. He would buy timberland in East Texas, harvest the timber, sell the surface, keep the minerals, and get in the oil business. And
yeah.
he got into the ranching business. He was the quintessential entrepreneur, and he's kind of the model that I like to pattern my life after. Um, and But to answer your question, I was in the oil and gas business before I was in the real estate business or any
Yes.
form. My family was in the oil and gas business. We had an exploration and production company. We owned royalty, the whole ball of wax. And if after going through a couple of busts out here in the Permian Basin, I decided that I needed to be in a business. You know, I was not getting out of the oil business, but I needed to be in a business that had some cushion and
Mhm.
a little bit more of a consistent performance profile.
Right.
And I was the way I wound up in the single family business was I was in business with a fella who owned a house. He was a Mexican national, had a green
Hmm.
card, and he ran into some problems and had to leave the country. And he gave me I had lent him some money, so he gave me the house as collateral, and we just agreed that, you know, I just take the house back.
Right.
And so I wound up with that house, and along the line, I came up with a few other ones. And uh, when the price of oil went down, I would pick up real estate properties because, of course, here in Midland, everything is tied to the price of oil.
Mm,
If the price of oil is up, everybody's business is good. If the price of oil is down, not so much.
yes.
So I got into these properties, and was making nice money off of them. But it got to the point we were going the economy, the oil economy here was just going crazy,
Mm.
and
What year
values
is this? Just so we have an idea. What year are we talking about?
we're talking about the probably the mid to late 2000s.
Yes. Okay.
Maybe, yeah, probably in that form. I'd have to go back and look exactly, but
Mhm.
um I probably that was probably, and maybe, yeah, probably around 2000, probably in the mid, yeah, 2005, 2010, somewhere in that range. I'd have to go
Mhm.
back and look exactly at the years. But I wound up, we got to the point where the price of oil was bumping, 80, $90 a barrel. And
Mm.
I'm talking about some time ago when that was substantially more money than it is now.
Right.
And my properties, the houses just got to be so worth so much money, I couldn't afford not to sell
Yes.
them. And what I did was, um, I took the money. I was at the same time I was working on that real estate development project, and by the time I got out of all of that, that's when I sold some royalty, and had some other capital income events. And that's when I got into the multifamily business. One of my advisors said, "Hey, I've got these for sale, or I know this guy who's selling these apartments. You need to look at them. The economy's right, yada, yada, yada." It was in Milwaukee, and we got into those. And again, that was about a 5-year little expedition that it turned out okay. I mean, it could have been so much worse, but fortunately the economy was good, and I was able to sell them right and come out of them, and then figure out try to figure out what to do next.
Right, right. And then after the multifamily, that's when you started looking at real estate development.
No, I did the development part before I got into the multifamily. When we got out of the single family, and I sold the land that I had invested in for the development project, and pooled all that money, and that's when I got into the multifamily properties.
Right.
And I got out of those multifamily properties. I probably sold out of all of my multifamily properties 4 or 5 years ago. It was a good time because I was having some issues with another business I was in, and it was one of my in the oil side of the business. It was one of my primary sources of income. It wasn't providing the income that I needed. And so selling these multifamily properties came at the right time to provide me with money to operate on and invest other things and that sort of thing. So it was an opportunity. It was a good opportunity. It came at the right time, and it was one of those deals that, thank you, Lord, it came at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? There's a pattern that I'm seeing and listening to you throughout your life. You're identifying opportunities and building it up whatever skill set you need, or working with whoever you need in order to make that opportunity happen. And how is it that you developed that skill? Is that an innate skill for you? Did you get it from listening to the stories of your great grandfather and family legends? How did you develop that skill of seeing an opportunity, spotting an opportunity, putting together the tools to go after it, and then going after it?
Well, Ray, that's an interesting question, because I have a pretty well-developed sense of self-confidence that I can do whatever I need to do. And sometimes sometimes that's somewhat misplaced, because it's bitten me in the butt a couple of times too.
Okay.
But I have never been afraid of jumping in, and there's there's a lot of old sayings. There's a lot of memes in the personal development business. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes.
The Dr. Martin Luther King had, when you don't have to see the whole staircase, all you have to have is faith to take the first step.
Sure.
I've been accused of jumping out of the airplane and building the parachute on the way down. And
it must have worked, because you're still here, man.
Sometimes I didn't get that chute completely built, but anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
But no, I avail myself of whatever resources, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I'm in Raise Masters and associated with you and some of these other amazing people. I decided some time ago that the oil and gas business is a great business. It is highly lucrative. You can make a lot of money in it, but the risk profile for most investors is not good. Most investors do not have the wherewithal to take the risk that is involved in getting in the oil business. It's a very, very risky proposition, but it can make you tons and tons of money. And I'll be the first to admit, I've made millions of dollars in the oil and gas business.
Yeah.
It's been a very, very good business to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to get on Facebook or approach my friends that are not familiar with oil and gas business, such as you and Catherine and Hunter. I wouldn't say, hey, you need to get in this oil deal with me, because I would, the potential risk is very, very high. Where I can come to you with a multifamily deal or a storage unit deal or a mobile home park deal, we can quantify the risks very, very easily. We can analyze those. We can assign a risk profile, which is usually not very high, especially if we're very careful about the due diligence we do on our projects, which I am, and that's one of the things I'm building.
Yes.
And but I've got the real estate business as a whole is so well developed now. It is so mature. We can look at it and say, if you put a mobile home park right there, we know it will probably fill up within X number of months. The returns will be consistent over time, because people are not going to buy a mobile home and rent a space from me and pull up in the dead of night and leave. It's kind of hard to move one of those things once you put it on the ground.
Yes.
And so
that's everything. Yeah.
The risk profiles are much easier to absorb in the real estate business. Same thing with multifamily, same thing with self-storage. Self-storage is a great place to be right now. People are acquiring more and more stuff, and they don't have a place to put it. Pick me. I didn't. I live out in the country, so I've got about 2 acres. So I just built my own storage unit out behind my house. So
that works.
Yeah, but we know and I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. We can look at an area and say, okay, there is a consistent occupancy of, the average occupancy is 36 months per unit in this area. And so we know, you can say, okay, 36 months times, we've got 100 units, so that'd be over 36 months. So that's going to be 3,600 units average rented per year. So that way, I think that's right. Anyway, don't get me doing math. That's not my good point.
We can go through and update in the show notes or something. But yeah, the point is made, though. The point is, there's a lot of opportunity there, and not everyone has 2 acres like you, where they can just build a shed out back.
No,
it is.
But more than anything else, it's I can't. It's much easier for me to approach you and other investors on a real estate deal than it is an oil and gas deal.
Right.
Oil and gas is very profitable, but it's also very risky, because you still, no matter how much science you do, how much checking, how much well control you do, you still got to put that hole in the ground, and it's going to cost you X hundreds of thousands of dollars to drill that hole, and it could be dry.
And the hole could be dry. Even with all of the science we have in 2024, dry holes still happen.
Yes, they do.
Wow. Okay. There we go. All right. Here's we're coming towards the end of our time together. This has gone really quickly, because there's just so much that you have that I want to ask you about. Let me ask you this, because you've been in oil and gas, you've been in multifamily, you've been in storage, you've been in other business ventures, you are advising people on business, and there are many who look at you as a mentor. What advice would you give to the 21 or 22-year-old Jim Blakemore, who is starting off and wants to be in business, wants to be an entrepreneur? What advice would you give him?
Find something that speaks to you. Find something you have some enjoyment at, some passion in, and get into it. Learn
Yeah.
everything you can about it. Find a business mentor. Find somebody who can give you some advice in that area of business and follow it. But more than anything else, the biggest mistake I think I've made in my business career is jumping from thing to thing. I've got a really bad case of shiny object syndrome.
Mm.
And I've jumped into a lot of shiny objects that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Where if I look back on some of the things that I had started, my radio business being one of them, and kept with it and consistently over time, I would probably be, I probably wouldn't be in the real estate business, but I also would probably be worth a heck of a lot more money. I look at people like Warren Buffett. I look at people like Steve Jobs. I look at people like Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Bill Gates has one company. He started out with one company
Sure.
called Microsoft, and
Sure.
he's still there. Warren Buffett, with his association with Charlie Munger,
Yeah.
they invested in good companies, but they invested. They didn't they didn't say, oh, Geico, that looks like a good company, I'm going to start a competitor.
Yes.
They bought Geico. Coca-Cola, same thing. They didn't look and say, hey, that little company down there in Atlanta is doing great, I bet we can make a better soft drink. No, they bought the best that there was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of trying to remake the wheel, find a good wheel and stay with it. I'm not saying you have to stay in something, past the point of it being a good idea. But learn about what you want. Find something that speaks to you. Find something that you're passionate about. Probably the one thing about my business, my being in the oil and gas business, was all I knew was I knew something about operations. I wasn't a geologist. I wasn't a reservoir engineer. I didn't know the science behind the business. And maybe if I had been better versed in the science behind the business, I would probably be, I might have stayed focused on that industry more than real estate. Real estate has gotten me. The real estate bug bit me because the oil and gas business was too cyclic. It was way up and way down. The real estate business is significantly more stable than oil and gas. It's not as risky. The profits aren't quite as good there, but it's still good stuff. So if I were giving myself advice, I would find something and stick with it. Don't jump from business to business to business at the slightest whim.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood. Yeah. Okay. That's great advice. At the same time, I would argue you are also very good. You mentioned shiny object syndrome. I've got a little bit of that myself, and it is what it is, right? But one thing that I see in you, when you saw the volatility in the oil and gas business, you didn't just sit there by the side of the road and sulk about it. You spotted other opportunities. You saw multifamily, you saw storage, you saw other opportunities there that you can invest in, and your broadcast properties too that you mentioned. So there's pluses, there's some upside too. So I admired the way you find opportunities. That's very cool.
Well, thank you very much, Ray. I appreciate it.
Very cool. Well, we're about ready to wrap up here. I'm going to ask you something I ask a lot of our entrepreneurs towards the end here. What is it that you're reading, or what are you listening to sharpen your saw and to make yourself more aware of what's going on out there?
Ray, I learned, I got involved in the personal development business about 30 years ago. I got associated. First thing I got associated with, I started listening to a guy named Jim Rohn. And I still listen to him, but to this day, I spend about 10% of my income on personal development. Wow. I work, I'm going to I'm very fortunate to have a friend who's associated with Dennis Waitley. I'm going to be with Dennis Waitley next month.
Yes.
Next month and no, following month. And with them, it's a small gathering, but I believe in masterminds. I am a member of 4 high-level masterminds. And there's Jim Rohn had the saying that you are the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. So the one thing I try to do is put myself in the company of great people, great successful people, because I want to become greater and more successful even than I am now. I've been very fortunate, very blessed to have a marvelous lifestyle and a fairly successful business career, but I still want to grow.
You still want to grow. You still want to do more. You still want to grow and learn more. You're learning from Jim Rohn. And a lot of people recognize Jim Rohn was a mentor to Tony Robbins.
Correct.
And with Dennis Waitley, you're in a company of some high-end names. And then finally, how can people get in touch with you?
My email is james@jamesblakemore.com. Phone number 432-687-1408. The website is coming. It's not up yet. I'm working on redoing. I'm as you and I discussed earlier, I'm building a fund of funds company to help other people invest in very highly curated, very highly curated projects. And the name of that company is the Iron Mountain Capital Group. So, but wait, it's coming.
Yes, there it is. There it is.
It's on the horizon. Watch for that. Watch for it. And if you want to find me, I'll be at Raise Masters every year.
Solid. Let's do that. Let's do that. I will absolutely see you there, and I'll see you in and around Raise Masters, all the events we have every week. So, Jim Blakemore, thank you so much for being with us here on the ROI Clear podcast. This has been a pleasure and a true learning experience. We are grateful for you.
Thank you, Ray. It's been a pleasure being with you. I hope you wish everybody a great day.
Thanks. And thank you for engaging the ROI Clear podcast. At ROI Clear, we buy multifamily apartment properties, we improve them, and we give people a great place to live. At the same time, we give investors an opportunity to enjoy capital preservation, tax advantages, and a solid return on investment. If you'd like to know more, click the link to roiclear.com down below. We look forward to speaking with you.